Hey guys, this is the Comet CE from r/Balisong, and this is my review of the Atropos Demon. The knife maker of this, he is out of Russia, Nizhny Novgorod, I believe is the name of the city. I'm probably butchering that pronunciation, but I can't read Cyrillic, I can't pronounce Russian, so bear with me, I am a stupid American. So I'm going to give you guys a quick rundown of the pros, the cons, miscellaneous stuff, what I like, and a few little specification type things on this knife. Overall, I am enjoying it quite a bit. I am glad I purchased it. So first things first, the cost of the knife. This thing was $200. I got the model of it with the bushing system in it. He also threw in a handy-dandy little sheath with it. I might go about modifying the sheath a little bit, throwing a belt loop on it, just so I can carry it around. It is great for storage, though. It's a actually very snug, very good fit, so it's not going anywhere. So first thing you'll notice when you get this knife, just kind of not a pro, not a con thing, that thing is snug. The latch on this thing definitely takes some muscle to get in and out. I don't think it's that big a deal. I'm just going to wear this bit down a little bit, but it doesn't really bother me. So I'll show you guys the full length of the blade. It's a very sexy looking blade shape, I will say that. I definitely really like this blade shape. He's been doing a lot of other interesting designs with his blades. He's got, I think it says Dr. Zed is the name of the knife. He's got a gutter going up the spine of the blade that looks really sexy, and I actually hope he does that for one of his Balisongs sometime. So I'll start things off with the pros of the knife. The first thing I noticed right away, the bushings are extremely smooth. This thing just, it's smooth operation. It's what you expected of a good bushing system. So I can definitely applaud that. I'm glad I got this version of it. The handles are a channel construction. These things are just fantastic. It's one solid piece of titanium. Very, very minimalistic construction thanks to that. It's just pair of screws up here, and you're screwing the back for the latch. That's all you have to worry about. For customization, that's fantastic. I do plan on doing a few modifications to this in the near future, possibly today if I can. So that's definitely great. Maintenance is extremely easy thanks to that too. Less parts to worry about. I'm definitely liking the latch he added in here. I know it's a little bit of a odd thing to be excited about, but I do a lot of latch drops, a lot of Houdinis. So having a good latch to work with is great. And thanks to a couple of tweaks he's made in this model of the knife. I know the original one, I remember the latch was catching the blade. People were complaining about that, and it looks like he's made a tweak to it. This cannot get in the way of the blade, which is great. And it actually will typically push away when the handle hits it. So that's pretty good. It feels good. The center of balance on this is a little more handle biased as well. I'll slip this in the pros, although I know it's a bit of a miscellaneous thing. It's just a little past the third weight reduction hole in the knife. So it definitely feels good when you're flipping it. It lends itself well to aerials, is one thing I noticed right away. Very good for aerials. The finish on it is very good. The B-Blast it looks great. There's another side to that B-Blast. I'll get to that one later. But I do like how it visually looks as a knife. It's got its own very unique look that you know it's a Atropos right away. Blade shape is goddamn sexy. I freaking love this shape. That little swedge at the end here looks really nice. So it's a very, very nice knife. I'll show you guys a handle play really quick while I'm here. My screws are a little loose from playing around with it. I do not have them Loctited. They don't come Loctited, which is good for modification and the like. I just tweaked them a little bit, and I'm going to throw some Loctite on later after I modify this. Now on to the wondrous cons of the knife. Not a whole lot of these. It's really mostly nitpicky aside from one of them. The first one really depends on where you live. This blade steel is D2. Which means, unfortunately, it's kind of prone to rust. So you're going to have to be a little careful with it if you live in, say, Florida or any other coastal city where there's a lot of salt water in the air. Up here in New York, I've had some issue with D2 steel. My Benchmade 51 actually got some rust on the original blade thanks to the D2 steel. But it's not too big a deal if you're in a drier area or if you just keep it oiled up and maintained. Shouldn't be that big a deal. So that's that there. One thing I did notice, and this does also unfortunately tie into the D2, the grind that he gave the knife is not... It's sharp. I've cut myself with it. but it's not really sharp. I don't know if it's necessarily the grind itself or if it's just not that sharp. The primary grind doesn't feel sharp. When you get to the Tanto edge up here, that's actually pretty sharp. You did a good job on that. You can fix it yourself. It's just going to be a little time consuming with D2 steel since it's very, very hard. Outside of that, I do have a slight issue with pinching up here. It's nothing too big. I don't find it interrupting my flipping at all. But when I'm doing chaplains and the like on the outside of the knife, it'll catch my finger and it'll pinch it a little bit on its way over. Doesn't necessarily hurt. It's not going to cause bleeding or anything. Just kind of a little thing I noticed doing those types of tricks. As I mentioned before, the latch on this is, I don't know if I want to call this a con or not. It's extremely snug. It'll take a bit of muscling to get it into the slot. There we go. I mean, it'll never whip open in your pocket. So that's one thing to notice. The only thing that concerns me about that is it'll start wearing down up here. You can see a little bit of the bead blast has been worn off. It's one little issue. The big issue I have, though, but it's perfectly fixable. The bead blast finish on the handles of this knife is very slick. I've actually been having trouble keeping a grip on the knife when I'm doing my tricks, notably catching aerials, choker fanning, and anything that involves having to keep a good grip or catching with only a couple of fingers. I lose my grip very easily. Easily fixable. I'm just going to sand it down because I'm going to re-anodize this purple at some point. So I'm going to sand it down and give it a nice shiny finish to it. But all he really needs to do with this one, if he's going to make more with this kind of bead blast design, which is really his look, I would suggest either giving it a smoother finish so your fingers can grip onto the metal a little bit better, or to roughen it up a little bit so you can get more friction out of it. Either way works. It's just the way this finish is done, and along with how rounded out the handles are, it's difficult to maintain a good grip on it sometimes. That was really, at the end of the day, my nitpicky con for it. Overall, I do really like this knife. It feels good to flip. The design is great. It looks nice. It's very unique how he made this look. The handles are almost a little minimalistic in their appearance. Sorry about the traffic. There's roadwork out front. It's almost like a little minimalistic in its design, but it all lends to the overall shape very well. And the blade is just sexy. I love his blade shapes. But those are my impressions on the knife so far. At a price tag of $200 for the bushing model, I believe it's $150 before shipping. I think it goes up to $180-ish for the standard model of this, if he's still doing that one. This makes a great starter knife, in my opinion. If you're ready to go to a live blade, you don't want to dump $300-400 on a knife, I would definitely recommend this one. It took about a little over a week for this to ship to me. Here in the United States, I'm on the East Coast, since it did have to ship out of Russia. Most people have been saying it takes about 2 weeks to a month for it to get to them, depending on location, time of year, and what his workload is. Definitely recommend this knife, though. As far as little technical specification stuff, I don't have an exact weight on this. I'm assuming it's upper 5 ounces. That's what it feels to me. Lengthwise, this is definitely much bigger on the handles. I'll give you a comparison really quick. This is a Flytanium Benchmade 51. You can definitely see the handles and blade are a bit longer on this. It definitely lends to rollovers quite well, though. It's not going to be a speed demon like the 51 is, but you can still maintain a lot of control on it. For a little bit of comparison, I'll pull up my Cold Steel Paradox. You can see the size comparison here. This is a 5.5-inch blade on the Cold Steel, so I'm assuming this is about 5 inches for a blade size. But weight-wise is actually, it doesn't look as heavy, or it doesn't feel as heavy as it looks, which is nice. They definitely did a good job skeletonizing the design to take off a lot of the excess weight that I have with this one. Because with this knife, when I'm flipping it, I have to flip extremely slow because of that weight. It's 7.6 freaking ounces. It's a huge knife. But it's a great knife. Definitely highly recommend it. But, those are my feelings on the knife. If you want to see more of me flipping this, customizing it, I'm going to be posting more and more of this on my Instagram account. You can find me on there as TheCometCE. And I will be customizing this in the near future. All right, that's all I got. I'll be seeing you guys later.